Often, those who are practicing Krishna consciousness discuss how this world is a dangerous place. Our bodies are so fragile. They can suffer some dangerous injury, or even the life can be ended so easily. And then you look around you, there are constant dangers, terrorism, there has to be security everywhere. The intelligent person thinks, what kind of world is this? That danger just lurks everywhere. As the Bhagavatam says, padam padam yavit padam natesha. Danger at every step, but not for those. Natesha, not for those who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So we may wonder, does that mean if I take shelter of Krishna, that I'll never see any material difficulties? We need to understand that there are difficult circumstances for the devotee, but then, because the devotee is absorbed in devotional service to Krishna, those difficult material circumstances, even dangerous material circumstances, don't capsize the devotee. Srila Prabhupada once gave a very beautiful example while he was in Florida, and he had just gotten his massage, and he was sitting on a cot with his gumsha on, and he began to explain how it is a devotee is in this world, but not in this world. Those who know something about Christianity, many people in the West, of course, have that background. They are intrigued by a verse said to be spoken by Jesus Christ, in which he instructed his followers, you must be in the world, but not of the world. In a nutshell, Jesus was teaching Bhakti Yoga in a very simple way. The actual technology, the spiritual technology for how to be in the world but not of the world, that is the forte of the Bhakti Shastras. They go in depth about this very necessary art, science, and culture for how to be in the world but not of the world. Being in the world means being in danger because, as we just discussed, danger lurks everywhere because of the fragile, delicate nature of our bodies. Even our minds are very fragile and delicate. So many doctors are in the Radha Gopinath congregation. They can tell you how the fastest rising disease in the world, soon to be number 2 in terms of disease impact, it's not anything physical. It's mental depression. So there's danger for the body, danger for the mind, danger from elements around us. How does a devotee live with all that? By the absorption in devotional service, our core identity is not touched by the dangerous circumstances around us. Prabhupada gave the example that it's like you're on a boat, a little boat, and the boat is on the sea. The waves are rocking the boat, but they're not actually touching you. The waves aren't touching you. They're just rocking the boat. So if we don't have deep attachment for the holy name of Krishna and deep attachment for the knowledge of Bhagavad Dharma, we'll think that when the boat is rocking, we are rocking. When actually, there's a difference between the waves touching the boat and the waves touching us. Now, I know you may say, but what's wrong with saying I'm being rocked? Because I'm in the boat. So if the boat is rocked, and because I'm in the boat, I'm rocked. The bhakti science allows you to make that distinction that the boat is being rocked and not you are being rocked. And that distinction is not just word jugglery or some kind of religious faith. That distinction is scientific. Through the process of devotional service, you can actually experience yourself as different from your material surroundings. The way material existence is constructed is that there'll always be danger. Actually, the bhakta, Krishna's devotee, is more concerned about another kind of danger than terrorism or illness or accidents. The Krishna Bhakta is concerned about the danger of trying to be master in this world. That is the most severe danger. Feeling the motivation that I'll be satisfied and happy the more opportunities for mastery that come my way. If this world would simply go my way, not all the time, but a good portion of the time, then this world would be a better place and I'd be happy. I don't want to be Lord of all that I survey, but just part of what I survey. That is the world peace formula. Just let me be Lord and Master of just part of the world. I'm not greedy. I don't want everything. The Krishna Bhakta is trained through association and knowledge to understand that this is the greatest danger. This impulse, this tendency, born of contact with the modes of material nature, this tendency to want to be the master, which contradicts real wealth. The illusory idea, the Maya idea, is that real wealth means you are in the position of being in control and the master. That's what money will do for us. It'll put us in control of our life. The truth of Krishna consciousness lets us experience that wealth means servitorship. The more that we have a chance to engage in devotional service, the more wealthy we are. Lord Chaitanya spoke about this in his Siksha to Sanatana Goswami. He explained what is Mahadana, what is the greatest treasure in life. 3 things: Krishna, love of Krishna, and Krishna's service. Knowing that, how would we describe poverty? The spiritual definition of poverty doesn't look at the income. It looks at how much is there or not remembrance of Krishna and opportunity for Krishna's service? So if we look in our life and we see that there's constant opportunity to remember Krishna and ample opportunity to engage in Krishna's service, then we are wealthy. As His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was explaining yesterday morning about the Pushpa Abhishek, everyone gets a chance to do some flower petal rendering for the Lord. And in receiving those flower petals, the Lord looks at the devotion, the intent. Safety in this world means to be in a situation where you're impelled to remember Krishna and impelled to engage in Krishna's service. A poverty-stricken situation in this world means thinking I am the master. The more situations that come my way that I can be the master, the more wealthy I am. But actually, it's the reverse. The more poverty-stricken you are. When Lord Krishna, in the 9th canto of Bhagavatam, speaks to Ambarish and Durvasa Muni, he explains that there are spiritual opulences. To live on the same planet as the Lord, to be the Lord's associate, to have the same form as the Lord, to share the opulences of the Lord. But then Krishna says, my devotees, they won't accept these 4 spiritual benedictions, even if I offer these to the devotees. So if my devotees won't accept these 4 spiritual opulences, why would they ever accept material benedictions which are all under the control and influence of time? Krishna asks us to focus on that distinguishing point, this crucial point that allows you to divide the waters or separate the cream from the milk. The crucial point is, are the opulences, is the wealth under the influence of time or is it not? So in this way, Lord Krishna dramatically makes the point about the wealth of devotional service. My devotees don't even accept Vaikuntha opulences. So why would they ever accept benedictions about opulence within the material world? Because all those opulences in the material world are under the gun of time. When I'm speaking overseas to groups of students who've come overseas from India, or those who have graduated and are already professionals, I explain to them, how are you going to explain this, that you have gone overseas to Australia, you're enrolled in universities, or you're enrolled in your corporations, and how are you going to explain to your friends and relatives back home that you are learning, you've come to Krishna consciousness and you're learning to be a servant? How can you explain that? That the greatest goal in life is to be a servant of Krishna. The greatest wealth in life is to be a servant of Krishna. This ability to see the wealth of bhakti requires some special mercy. And every devotee can be a vessel of that special mercy in that every devotee can allow others to see the real wealth of devotional service, the real wealth of being a servant of Krishna. Without devotees, how will people ever understand this? It's very mysterious, this bhakti, that the more you become a servant, the more wealthy you are. Very mysterious. There's so much pressure in the world for us to understand and accept that the more you become a master, the more safe you are, the more secure you are, and the more happy you are. So much pressure is there. Service to Krishna is the highest form of mysticism, in that something that is the lowest from material consideration, being a servant, in the spiritual reality is the highest situation. Lord Chaitanya himself never introduced himself as a direct servant of Krishna. He said, I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. Our spiritual life will accelerate once we make peace with this basic principle. The more I am a servant, the more I am in my constitutional position. And the more I go away from being a servant of Krishna, meaning servant of Krishna's devotees, the more I'm feeling the dangers. That means, going back to our example about the boat on the water. Danger means I'm thinking that when the waves rock the boat, they're also rocking, they're touching me, because I am in the boat and I identify with the boat. And then I identify with the waves that are rocking the boat. It is the service to Krishna through his devotees that allows us to see the difference between material dangers being external to us and material dangers actually being us. This is a distinct experience of bhakti, art, science, and culture. Therefore, through service to Krishna and service to Krishna's devotees, we indeed can be in the world but not of the world. Bhakti allows us to perform qualitatively equal the same thing that Krishna does when he comes to this world. He comes to this world, but he's not of the world. The perfection of bhakti gives Krishna's servants the same ability. How to live amidst the dangers of this world, but at the same time have the greatest wealth. Let us remember the poverty-stricken situation. No opportunity to remember Krishna. No opportunity to serve Krishna's devotees. Finally, Lord Chaitanya explained to Sanatana Goswami that when you're established solidly in devotional service, you'll get to a point where you can actually taste the association of Lord Krishna. And by tasting the association of Lord Krishna, that means the cycle of repeated birth and death will come to an end. By your tasting the association of Lord Krishna. Tasting, that's a distinctive experience. It's not theoretical. It's about spiritually purified senses. So even though it is a fact that by tasting Krishna's association, the cycle of bhava, repeated birth and death, comes to an end, Lord Chaitanya then explains that bhakti actually isn't for ending the cycle of repeated birth and death. Bhakti is for providing ever more opportunities to engage in Krishna's service That's how the devotee sees bhakti. Through serving Krishna, I'll get more service to Krishna. That is the Mahadana. That is the greatest wealth in life. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Mukam Karoti Vacharam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. While His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj was speaking, many ideas were coming to my mind in relation to what he was saying. So, there is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where the Lord says, Mamaivam sho jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, manasastra nindriyani prakritistani karshati. That the living entities are my parts and parcels and they are eternal. But due to the conditioning of the mind and the senses, they are struggling in this material world. So, a big struggle in this material existence due to conditioning of the mind and the senses. Everybody's trying to survive in this ocean of with many sharks, very dangerous animals. The big try to eat the smaller, isn't? So once two devotees, I witnessed the conversation. One devotee asked the other, Hare Krishna Prabhu, how are you? And the other said, well, here I am struggling in this material world. And the other devotee asked, are you struggling to stay in the material world or to get out of it? So struggle must be there, but either way is a struggle. But the struggle to get out of material consciousness and be Krishna conscious is a glorious struggle. A very glorious struggle. It's worthy the effort, the sacrifice, the time, the energy, because it's an everlasting benefit. Once a devotee asked Prabhupada, I can't help it but think about my personal benefit. I'm conditioned to think that way. And Prabhupada told him, then think about your real eternal benefit. And that's real eternal benefit is to be Krishna Bhakta, Krishna Das, a servant of Krishna. That's the proper understanding. The example given, a servant of a king. The servant is also living in the palace. He is seeing also the same dramas and plays and music and dance that the king sees. He eats the same food. After the king eats, he also gets the same food, a nice dress and everything. So, although he's servant, because he's serving such a great man, he's also getting so many good things. So sometimes people think that this word itself, servant, is not appealing. It's something like we don't want. But actually, it's the highest thing. Prabhupada once, a reporter asked him, are you God? Prabhupada said, no, I am a servant of God. But then Prabhupada said, no, actually, to be a servant of God, that's a very great thing. I am trying to be a servant of God. So, Prabhupada told us, and when he visited South America, he said, this Krishna conscious philosophy is very simple. It's to understand that God, Krishna, is great and we are small. And the duty of the small is to serve the great. Very simple philosophy. It's nothing complicated. Actually, we have to understand that it's our original position anyway. If we don't serve Krishna, we have to serve other things because we can't give up what we actually are. Isn't? You can't take out of the fire its heat and light. It's the nature of fire to have heat and light. So in the same way, it is in our true spiritual nature to be a servant. When we forget our eternal relationship as servant with God, with Krishna, then we try to serve so many other things. Country, society, friendship, love, this, that, the boss, the wife, the children, so many things. Everybody has to serve something, isn't it? And the whole idea, like Maharaj said, is everyone to want to be a master. Nobody wants to be a servant. But the fact is everybody is being a servant of the mind and the senses. Of greed, lust, anger, fear, illusion, all these things. The mind has 6 enemies. And these are Kam, Krodh, Lobha, Matsarya, etc. And which are lust, greed, envy, fear, illusion, and what is the last one? Okay. So, but the problem is we have invited those enemies to reside in our mind, and they are not willing to leave. They are residing very comfortably there. So if you have an unwanted guest at your home, but you want him or her to leave peacefully, what you will do? You don't want to have a fight or call the police or anything like that. You just peacefully want the person to leave. So what you will do? I'm asking you. What you will do? Don't feed him. They have to find food somewhere else. And feeding these bad things means you think about it, by your thought, we are feeding this bad thing. So the idea to starve them. So the service to God, to Krishna, in another sense, is another example, an allegory given by the Vedas, is once the senses, they had a meeting. We have 5 senses. And they had a meeting to discuss about the stomach. And the discussion was, this stomach is sitting there doing nothing. We have to do all the work to give the food to the stomach. So he's exploiting us. He's taking advantage of us. And he's cruel and doing nothing. We have to do all the work. That means he's a tyrant. We have to go on strike on the stomach. Don't feed the stomach anymore. So they stop feeding the stomach. And after like 2-3 days, they have to have an emergency meeting again. Because they were feeling very, very weak and without any energy. So they immediately had the meeting. What was happening to us? We were not like that before. Well, since we start serving the stomach, we start to feel very weak and no energy and, distressed and all this. So maybe it is to our benefit to serve the stomach again. As soon as they feed the stomach again, immediately they felt, relieved and happy and full of energy. The same way, the stomach is like God, it's Krishna. And we are like the senses. So it is for our own spiritual and material benefit is that we need to have this connection, this relationship with God, with Krishna, through loving service. That's the meaning of bhakti. Loving service. That's the whole idea. So, but we are struggling with so many material attachment, and even while trying to practice bhakti, we face so many difficulties and shortcomings and so many things. So, and we see sometimes some devotees make more advancement than others. Why is that? That same question was asked to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada. The 2 disciples, they asked this question. Why sometimes we see 2 people coming to Krishna consciousness and one of them make advancement faster than the other? And Maharaj said, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said, he answered the question by telling a story. He said once a groom decided to celebrate his marriage at his hometown. So he took his bride and her family members in a big boat to cross the Ganga, because it was far away village. So he paid the man a lot of money to reach there and at sunrise. It was a long journey. So he had like 20, 30 men rowing all night, to reach the destiny. So they went to sleep, and when they woke up in the morning, to their surprise and their shock, they were at the same spot. The same white and black cow was there, and the same house, and everything was there, So they ran to the captain of the boat. What happened? We pay you so much money to take us to our destiny, and we are still, what's I don't know, let me see. So he went to give the sauce to the rowman, and why, you're sleeping all night? No, we still are sweating, we were rowing all night. So what happened? We don't know. So they were searching the boat to find out what happened. Finally, the groom called everyone. I found what was the problem. What was that? They forgot to lift the anchor. So no matter how hard they were trying to row, it doesn't make much progress. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explained that if we have the anchor of material attachment at the bottom, then it's very difficult to make the progress. He said we have to transfer the attachment to the most beautiful and eternal reality, Krishna. Then naturally the attachment from this side will happen. Like Maharaj was explaining, this material world is a very dangerous place. Padam padam yappi padam natesham. So if there are so many problems on this side, this is the enemy side. We have to understand that. This material world is not the friendly side, it's the enemy side. The friendly side is God's side, Krishna's side. So the more problem there are on the enemy side, the more we have to take shelter in the friendly side. Isn't? That's the solution. There is no other solution. The world is not going to change. Once some devotees approached Prabhupada in Mayapur, and were telling him that a third world war may happen any moment now because Pakistan, India, they're, gonna have a war, and from that may, something bigger may happen, and what we should do, Prabhupada, how we should prepare if this happens. Prabhupada said, just chant Hare Krishna. And the devotee asked, that's all, Prabhupada? Yes, that's all. So, once a reporter asked Prabhupada, Master, if you see a bomb coming toward you, what you will do? Said, oh, here is Krishna coming to take me with him. So for a devotee, there is no fear, because he knows Krishna is my only protector. And death is as sure as death. Who can avoid this? Nothing can avoid. So what we should fear, like Maharaj was explaining, is to forget Krishna and to think ourselves to be the Lord and masters and enjoyers of this world, which is a false assumption. Because we are all enslaved to our senses and mind, and so how we can be a master? And it's not that after serving the lust and greed and anger and envy and all these things, at the end of life, when you are, old, they will give you, what do you call? They will release you. Okay, now your pension. You will give you a pension. Now we are retired. We will give you retirement. No. Until the last minute, they will demand service. That's the fact. They are very cruel masters. They will not give relief. But due to ignorance only, we think, no, I am the controller and I am the enjoyer. And that's the illusion of this world. So to get out of this illusion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to bring the highest gift of all. Nityananda Prabhu also. Together they came out of compassion for the fallen souls of this world to give the highest benefit. There is nobody who can give higher benefit than them. And they came to give to everyone, regardless of caste, creed, or color of the skin or nationality. They came to give to everyone this wonderful opportunity to understand that we are Jiver Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. And this understanding comes very naturally when we engage in chanting offenselessly the holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.
I am very grateful to everyone for coming today. We heard from His Holiness Devamrita Swami Maharaj and His Holiness Bhakti Sundar Goswami Maharaj about this great treasure of life in the form of the opportunity to serve. I'll speak just a few minutes on this subject. Interestingly, when we speak about transcendental life, there are so many apparent contradictions. Because in order to be a servant, you have to be a master. And in order to be a real master, you have to be a servant. Does that make sense? In conditioned life, we are all serving the demands of the senses and the demands of the mind. We're walking down the street, we see something, the eyes are attracted. Well, actually, the eyes don't get attracted. The eyes just see it. And then that impulse goes to the mind, and the mind is attracted. And immediately the mind responds by either accepting it or rejecting. Either I want this or I don't want this. And then the intelligence comes in. The power of discrimination. The intelligence can decide, is this good for me or is this not good for me? If it's not good for me, the intelligence will tell the mind and the senses, no, don't do it. Go somewhere else. And if the intelligence is attracted, if the intelligence discriminates that this is something good, then no matter how difficult it is, you should work and you should do it. Let's take an example. You're walking down the street and you smell something very nice. And your nose just registers it. And then it goes to the mind, and the mind says, I have to have it. I have to have this. It just smells so good. and it's a bakery with nice sweets. And then your intelligence tells you, Prabhu, you have diabetes. You shouldn't eat these sweets. That's the intelligence. But the mind's saying, I want it. And because of the mind, the senses are saying, I need it. And the intelligence is saying, no, don't do it. Now, good intelligence takes the mind and the senses and directs it away from that situation to eat some Karela somewhere. It's good for diabetes, bitter melon. But if the intelligence comes under the influence of the mind and the senses, then the intelligence will figure out the way to get it. It will discriminate and then figure out the way to get it. Real intelligence, according to the Gita, is intelligence that follows the dictation of the Atma, or the soul, the real needs of you and me. You have a car, and the car needs oil and gasoline. And if you really identify with the car, you think, let me drink oil and gasoline. But your intelligence tells you, no, you need a different type of food. The Atma, the soul, is thirsting for pleasure. Why? Because it's Satchidananda. Its nature is eternal, full of knowledge and full of pleasure. But when we forget the inner pleasure of the heart, that treasure that the two Goswamis were talking about, then we search for that pleasure through the mind and senses. But as Devamrita Maharaj was saying, everything that we experience through the mind and senses is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It is temporary. It will be destroyed. It will end in course of time. All these things that we are attached to. Being attached to people means being attached to the source of life, the soul. Being attached to bodies are being attached to things. Yes? We may think that I'm in love with someone, but are you in love with something or are you in love with someone? The mind is a thing. The body is a thing. Because at the time of death, where are they? They're just things. It's the life force, the source of life, the Atma, the soul, the Jiva. That is the one, the person. So to love someone really means to love the soul in that person. And it's practical. Even your own mother or father, if they die, there's not much love for the dead corpse. There's love for the person that has left that body. What are the needs of the soul? The soul is hungry for pleasure. Why? Because it's Satchidananda. It's eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. And what is that pleasure? The pleasure of prema, or love. That's the only food that actually gives satisfaction to the heart. To love and to be loved. So when our intelligence is being guided by the actual needs and wants of the soul, then our life is directed toward the highest liberation. But when our intelligence is being guided by the mind and senses against the actual wants and needs of the soul, it leads us to so many karmic situations and the perpetuations of illusion. So Lord Chaitanya explained, as the Maharajas told, Jivara Swarupoi Krishnara Nityadas. The greatest treasure of all treasures is to serve on the transcendental platform. But in order to actually serve with love, in order to be a servant, a das, you have to become a master over your mind and senses. So you have to be a master to be a real servant. And in order to be, well, I get mixed up by the way I speak. At the same time, in order to master your senses and mind, it's through service. And this is what yoga is. Really, yoga means, in essence, to reconnect our consciousness back to its original spiritual nature. To clean the mind and to clean the senses and bring them in harmony again with the Atma or the soul. But in order to do so, it's very important to be convinced of what real wealth is. Things are not real wealth. Divine experience, that's real wealth. Because it brings fulfillment. Krishna tells in Gita, a real intelligent person is someone who is illumined within, who rejoices within, who finds unlimited satisfaction within. And we find the greatest people, because wealth means happiness, is it not? If you have billions or even trillions or quadrillions of rupees or dollars or euros, if you're not happy, are you a wealthy person? You might be in the cover of Fortune magazine, but are you a happy person? Anxiety, frustration, identity crisis. And ultimately, either through an economic crisis or through death, you can't keep a single penny. But the wealth of the eternal soul is everlasting, and it's unlimited, and it brings happiness. So this prema-dhan, the great treasure of loving God, the great treasure of serving with love, because love means to serve. The difference between kama and prema, or material passion, and love, spiritual love, one is selfish and one is selfless. One is for the sake of the object of our love, and the other is to satisfy my own egoistic conceptions. Yesterday was the appearance day of a great saint, Srila Narottam Das Thakur. In his honor, I'll tell one story which so beautifully gives a real historical context to this message. Narottam Das was the only son of a extremely wealthy landowner named Krishnananda Majumdar. And he he lived like those days, it was about 450 years ago in Bengal, he lived like a king. In fact, all the people in the areas where he owned the land, which were thousands and thousands of people, many villages, they considered him the king. And his only son was Narottam. That means Narottam was meant to inherit everything. He had so much home, clothes, fine foods, everything, as well as popularity and power. But when he was a little boy, somebody used to tell him about Krishna and Lord Chaitanya and different devotees of the Lord. And just by hearing these stories, he became so much attracted. He wanted this love of God. He wanted devotion. And he had a calling. And one day, it's a long story, but Nityananda Prabhu appeared to him and told him that you should go to the Padma River because Lord Chaitanya has actually entrusted the love of his heart for you in the Padma River because of your sincerity. And after receiving that, Narottam became so intoxicated with devotion. And he had a vision of the Lord who told him, go to Vrindavan and become the disciple of Lokanath Goswami. So Narottam left home secretly. He was only about 15 or something. And in those days, he had to walk to Vrindavan through Jarikanda forest. Very dangerous walking. Maybe almost 1,000 kilometers. Just a boy, all alone. And his father, when he found out his son left, was so disturbed. He paid a lot of money and hired detectives to find his son and bring him home by any means. So they found him in the jungles. And they said, you know, we're going to take you home by force. There were many of them. And Narottam, so sincerely, he explained to them the nature of his longing and to love and serve Krishna. And he gave them some beautiful examples. And his sincerity moved their hearts so deeply that they gave him money. And they said, we hope that this will help you on your trip. And we'll tell your father that we never saw you. So when he went to Vrindavan, he met Jiva Goswami, and Jiva Goswami brought him to Lokanath Goswami. Lokanath Goswami said, please tell me about your life. And he told him. And Lokanath Goswami said, how could I be your guru? There's two problems. One is I've never initiated a disciple in my life. And after my two dearest friends, Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, passed away from this world to join Krishna's eternal Leela, I'm feeling so much separation and love for them that it's impossible for me to take responsibility of anyone's guru. I will not, and I cannot. Impossible. And besides that, you already love Krishna. You already saw Lord Chaitanya. You don't need a guru. Just be happy. And Lokanath Goswami, he said, actually, I'm Lord Chaitanya may have come and he may have given me some things, but I'm so undeserving and I'm so unqualified. If I don't have your guidance, if I don't have your blessings, then I'm lost in this world. And besides that, the Lord told me to accept you as my guru. Even the Lord accepts a guru when he comes to this world. So it's necessary for me to do so. Lokanath Goswami said, this is not possible. But for 1 year, I will examine you. And for 1 year, you can examine me. And today, I'm not your guru, but I'm just giving you an instruction. Today, you start chanting 200,000 names a day. That means 128 rounds every day. So Narottam started chanting 128 rounds a day. How long would that take you? He was serious. And Narottam, he didn't want to disturb. He wasn't pressing. Because you're supposed to please your guru. You're not supposed to press your guru and pressurize your guru, cause him misery. That's not the real relationship. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. You know, if you force your guru to initiate you, then it's probably better not to be initiated, because pleasing him is more important than the formalities. So Narottam didn't pray. He just made his, in a very humble way, he just presented his case and then he left it and did service. Every morning Lokanath Goswami would bathe in the Yamuna River, very early when it was still dark. But he was noticing something really strange. Because before he would bathe, he would respond to nature's calls. That's the way sadhus in India explain passing stool and urine, to respond to nature's calls. Sounds nice, doesn't it? And he would always do it in around the same place before going in the Jamuna. But he noticed it was always perfectly clean. And it was always just so nice, this area. Sifted dirt. And there was always a little pile of finely sifted dirt and a little pot of water for him to wash before going in. And Lokanath Goswami was thinking, what about the day before and the day before that? You know, that stuff should still be here. Where is it? What is happening here? 1 year passed. And Lokanath Goswami was asking several people, who's cleaning this area every day?